Okay, investor ratio calculations. We're just going to look at a few different ways you can calculate some additional numbers to support your analysis in the essay and help to achieve those higher marks. So the first calculation is dividend yield. So dividend per share divided by market price times 100. So in the dividend yield video, I explained that having that percentage helps us to calculate the amount of dividends you could receive. And that's quite an important thing to have in your essay. There will be a way of working out the dividends. Easiest one is dividend yield. So if you've got dividend yield, if you've got the percentage return, and you've got the investment you're looking to make, it is literally just the percentage of that investment is the amount of potential dividends you can make. So if it was a 10% dividend yield and you're investing £50,000, 10% of 50,000 means you're going to have £5,000 worth of dividends per year. If we've got dividend cover, so what we've got here is we may be able to use the dividend cover to calculate the dividend per share if we don't have the dividend yield. So if we've got the profit after tax and we've got the dividend cover, we can rework that formula. So if you think it's profit after tax divided by dividends paid equals dividend cover, or we could substitute dividends paid for dividends cover, and then we can work out the overall amount of dividends paid. Now, if we do that, we can then have the share capital figure. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of work. We have the share capital figure and the nominal value of a share. So if you go share capital divided by nominal value, that will give you the number of shares in existence, and you can go dividends paid divided by the number of shares. That will give you the dividend per share, which you can then use when you calculate how many shares that the investor would potentially have in this essay. Now, with regard to calculating the amount of shares in the essay, you'll be given the market price, you'll be given the amount they want to invest, so we can use both of those to calculate the potential amount of shares. Again, you're going to question that because the market price changes constantly, but you can still use that. So dividend cover is another method that we could use to calculate the amount of dividends we receive. Commonly dividend yield, but could have dividend cover. If they give you dividend per share, again, you would know the amount of shares, so you just multiply that by the dividend per share. That would be nice. Interest cover. So it doesn't have to be an investor ratio essay. It could be something else. That you need to work out the finance costs, or you need to work out the profit from operations. And so there was an exam question a couple of years ago where they gave interest cover and they gave a list of debentures for you to calculate the finance costs. You work out the interest on all of those debentures, and because the formula is profit from operations divided by finance costs, you know that finance costs multiplied by interest cover would give you profit from operations. So it's just being able to rework and manipulate these formulas to give you some other numbers that might be useful in your analysis, or just for a straight numerical question. Earnings per share, so profit after tax divided by number of shares issued. That could be another way of working out the number of shares issued as well. So if you were given the profit after tax, but not given the number of shares issued, but given the earnings per share, you could substitute earnings per share for number of shares issued and work out the number of shares in existence. So lots of different ways of manipulating these numbers to give you something that you need to support your essay. Finally, the price to earnings ratio. Mentioned previously in another video how this could be useful to support your judgment. You've got to make sure that you appreciate exactly what it means. But if you've got the market price and you've got the earnings per share, you can work out the price to earnings ratio. So if you're looking for one of the other variables, again, manipulate the formula. If you're looking for the market price, you've got earnings per share, you've got the PE, you can go earnings per share multiplied by PE, and that will give you your market price. So just try and think about these formulas and how you can manipulate them, but the absolute key is you've got to learn them all. In paper 1 and paper 2, you're going to have multiple questions, be they multiple choice, standalone 2, 3, 4 markers, or just in essay questions where you're going to need to calculate the investor ratios and the other financial ratios that you've covered in the first year.